Let's take it away, Mikki.
Okay.
So just as a little bit of background on our 25-year journey, we have spoken with, we know, thousands of coaches, probably tens of thousands of coaches, and at least hundreds of people running programs. And that is internationally, all over the US, all over the world. And so we've seen some really important trends where we can almost say, are you doing these things, and know how successful you're going to be. So we just want to share that with you to make it easier to run a fantastic and successful youth program. Our mission is always doing what is best for kids. So that means making sure that the programs you're running are successful.
Awesome.
And we can move out of the title page now.
Yeah, for sure.
So the first thing we see is we talk about with our gyms that we mentor, defining your goals. And oftentimes what we see with the youth programs is that they'll go like, well, okay, they'll see they've got kids in their gym, their members have kids, and they go like, you know what, I've got a couple spare hours, I'm gonna run a program. And they just open up the program and they start running the program. Right. And we want to talk about, they don't start the program with the idea that this is a business that should be driving revenue to the gym and paying the coaches. They start with this idea that, well, I've got the kids, I'm just going to go ahead and run it. And then a year later, they've got 10 kids in the program that they're running 4 days a week, and they're frustrated. So when we're starting and we're talking about running a program, we want to talk about defining what the goals are. And we'll define it in 2 ways. The first one is the business goals. What do you want to make out of the business? What do you want? What revenue wise do you want? What do you want revenue wise the first year? What do you want the second year? How big do you want to grow the program? How many kids are that going to take to hit those revenue numbers? How many coaches are you going to need to have to hit those revenue numbers to service the kids well and run and hit those revenue numbers? Yeah. Without those business goals, it's like when a person walks in your gym and says, I want to lose weight. And you go, awesome. Let's go in and you just start working out, and a year later come back, I haven't lost any weight. Well, we don't know how much weight you want to lose. We don't have any way to go about doing it. So start the business off as a business and think of it as a revenue stream, as a business stream, not an add-on
or an extra
nice to have. A value add or something.
Right. And that's exactly what we see most gyms approaching it as, a value add. So approach it as a business. But the second part of that is, what's the program goals? What goals do you have for your kids? Do you have a mission statement for the youth program? It's got to be a mission statement. It's got to be different than the adult program, most likely.
Yeah, I think when I ran the gyms, I think we started one because it was out of just a parent wanting it, and I was like, yeah. Okay, cool. We'll do that. Just, because I'm scared they're going to leave if we don't start a youth program for them.
That's not the recipe for success that we would like to have.
But it's a really common.
It's a real common. It's
good energy thing that people are trying to do. They just
let's take that energy and funnel it into something that's productive for both the child and the gym and the trainers that are running the program. The mission statement is important. That the whole gym, all of your trainers buy into the mission of working with kids. Oftentimes we'll say to new gyms that we're talking to, say, so what is the mission of your youth program? And they'll say, I want the kids to have fun. And we're like, awesome. Kids have to have fun in your program. That's an aspect of your program. That's an outcome. That's awesome. But it's an aspect of the program. We need to provide outcomes that the parents are going to want to buy. And that's got to be part of your mission statement. What do we want our program to represent? What outcomes do we want our kids to have?
Gotcha.
Defining those 2 things, what are your business goals? What is the mission of your youth program? Is a great place to start to set the business up for success.
And I would say that's probably across most programs and most business aspects. Wouldn't you probably just think that way too?
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's hard to do sometimes.
Right. But it's certainly, if we sit down and when we talk to the gyms that we work with, you sit down and you define these goals, they end up having a much more stable platform to succeed. And when we're talking about gyms that we work with now that have 200, 300 kids in their program, and that's significant, and significant revenue streams for the
Would you say that some of those clients you work with, that's their main revenue stream?
No.
Still no. It's just it is quote unquote additional, but it's very strong.
We have seen programs where it's fully 50%.
Yeah. Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah, it can be, but it has to be set up for that. And that's
it doesn't just happen. Cool.
Tim, I have questions about those things before we
let's I think we should definitely everybody hold your questions, write them down on a piece of paper is usually what I do, or you can even put it in the Q&A section of Zoom and then we'll answer them at the end, or maybe along the way. That's usually what I like to do, if that's okay with everybody.
That makes sense. Well, let's move to the next.
Perfect. Yeah.
Slide. So getting youth-specific education speaks to professionalism. My best metaphor for this is you have a car, which let's all assume that you care less about a car than you do your children. Right? Going on that assumption, would you bring your car to a car repair person who had not had any training on fixing a car? I feel like it's unlikely. His family might go to him to fix their cars, but no one else is coming. They're going to check out, do you have the basic necessary requirements to do this job? The basic necessary requirements to work with children in something you're telling your customer is foundational to their life. So important, a healthy, movement-rich life. You're setting them up for that, but you didn't take the time to find out much about it. That doesn't make sense. We want people to get educated so that they can reflect value to their customer as a professional.
And kind of taking that pathway. So as we were talking about before, gym owner says, hey, I have a couple of hours, I have some kids in my gym, I just want to I'm going to open up the kids program. And now we take the next step up, and the next thing we hear from that kind of gym owner is like, as soon as I get enough kids in and it's paying the bills, I'll go ahead and get trained to do what? To work for the kids and set up a good youth program. So you can start to see how this pathway starts to lead toward unsuccessful business model.
Yeah, it's the cart before the horse, so to speak, kind of thing. Like here,
right.
And then everything's been set up in most commonly not the optimal way because the person doesn't have the training to reflect what's the optimal way to start this and what works and what doesn't work with kids. So
communicates value to your customer. Every organization that works with kids, like the American Academy of Pediatrics or Australian Strength and Conditioning, they all, and the people who research youth fitness, like Avery Fagenbaum, and all of them say, kids should be working out. Kids should be lifting weights and doing, or strength training is what is the training. Kids should be strength training. But they all say there's two caveats to that. The kids, that the coaches leading the instruction with the kids should be certified or trained in youth-specific development. And secondly, that the program should be specifically designed
not reverse engineer
for youth. And so not only does it show professionalism and communicates value to your customer, but it also falls in line with what the experts say about training youth. And I think it's funny because when we started working with kids, everybody was against us lifting, kids lifting weights. You're having the kids lift weights. You're having the kids lift weights. Oh, it's terrible. It's terrible. You're going to stunt everybody's growth, all the kids' growth. By the way, our middle son is 6'2" and has a 700-pound deadlift. So, he's not stunted. He's not stunted. But there was all of this, don't do this with your kids. Now we hear, get the kids into strength training, get them into, and people forget those two caveats. it's successful if you know what you're doing, and the program's designed for youth. In our youth strength course that we offer, we lay out a program we designed specifically for youth that takes a kid from I've never touched a barbell to I can use the barbell for whatever strength, whatever sport activity or task I want to get strong for. We had 90,000 training hours with our kids. We had 0 injuries that required intervention, and our teens and youth set over 100 state and national powerlifting records. And so highly effective. When you know what you're doing, it's highly effective, very safe, and your kids come out being able to do amazing things. So be educated.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of coaches today that are logged in today. So if you're a coach on this call, and this is something that you're like, hey, I want to work with kids, I think this is the message to you. It's okay to ask for a little help, maybe from the owner. If you guys are owners, get that education for those coaches and empower them to be successful. Yeah, that's great. And also in line with this, it's not really a question, but Lee said that the kids are the future of the industry of fitness. A youth program that introduces fitness in a fun, productive manner is an investment to the success of our industry. And I couldn't agree more. And it's not just a revenue stream, but it definitely, if they can start lifting young, they're going to turn into adults that value fitness too. So I love that.
Lee, I'm gonna contact you and get that quote for a blog piece on writing, because
Hi, Lee.
What we're seeing is, we started talking about the obesity problems with kids back in 2008 and what that was going to lead to. And in 2010, I think we started talking about injury rates in kids in sport, and then what the problems were with movement pattern and kids not having normal movement patterns anymore.
Movement gaps.
And this is off topic slightly, except to Lee, but what we're seeing is a whole generation of kids growing up who they say, a low estimate is 50% are going to be obese and move poorly. 50%. That's not overweight. That's obese. And those kids are going to be hard to get into our functional fitness gyms when they're adults. And they're going to be hard to get into the OCR racing and the competitive side of any of these things. So it is in our best interest as a society, yes, but as our best interest or selfish interest as an industry to go, we need to open this field up and have kids learning how to move and be healthy, and that will help us have a base for future growth.
The future of humanity. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. We have one more thing on this topic, and that is educating a backup coach. So that speaks to professionalism again. Anywhere you go where you're relying on somebody to run a class, and they can't come today and they're sick, so they throw in someone else into the mix to cover for them who doesn't have any of the qualifications to actually do that.
Yeah,
it looks less important to the customer that you haven't taken the time to give someone else the ability to cover. And it's also very disruptive for a child. The children and teens get very attached to who they're working with. And it is good for you to have somebody to have a few different people so that they have different personalities, and some kids will work best with one and another. But throwing in someone they'd never work with is often very disruptive to them.
Doesn't understand how to work with kids.
Right, especially if they don't know how to work with kids. So we just, as another tier in the professionalism thing, at some point get at least one other coach on board with understanding exactly not just how you do it, because they can see that by watching the class, and we all understand they can see how you do it, but understanding what you're doing and why. That's what comes through the education that they can't see. So we think
that's excellent. Yeah, very smart. I love that. And it does breed professionalism. All right, let's go to the next slide here.
That is creating a child-friendly environment. How do you communicate to a customer that you prioritize this program that you're selling? Why should they bring their kids to you? how will their child feel when they walk into this environment? They are looking and listening to every single thing you do and putting it into their filter of, is this important to this gym? So if you walk into a gym that says, we have a kids program, it's our only open time, so it's Saturday at 10. We run it once a week, and we have one coach. And when you walk into the gym, you see nothing that speaks to children. And you have music that may or may not be a little aggressive for children. And you have it's not child friendly. That has one response from a parent. And picture another gym where you walk in and they're colorful pictures of kids smiling, not necessarily even doing these amazing athletic things that they do, and you can put those up too, but the enjoyment factor is there and reflected on the wall. So parents say, my kid will feel safe and happy here, plus meet the goals that the parent has. I want them to be less sedentary. I want sport performance, whatever those may be. They also can see safe, happy. That's very important. And we've seen data on that from people who've collected it. So very important that they know that somehow. Now, if you're not a picture type gym, now a lot of gyms aren't, you can put an awards cabinet. We had one at Brand X The Lab for 20 years. And it was just a corner cabinet. It was made, out of steel. It was very industrial and fit the whole look. But it was full of awards and achievements of the kids in our program. And they could be academic achievements. Right. They could be sport achievements. They
high
could
level.
be weightlifting achievements.
We had in there, we had medals from our kids who had competed at nationals in weightlifting. And then we also had, the fifth grader who got straight A's on his report card.
Yeah.
Or somebody who finger painted something for one of the coaches.
Yeah.
But it didn't matter because what mattered was the first impression of the customer, the parent coming through your door. What did they see? Well, they saw in our gym, they saw pictures of, 3 generations of in a family working out. They saw this kid's platform. We walk over to the reception table. There was literature about working with kids and why it was important. So they knew.
They knew it was important the minute they walked in. So
create that.
Another little metaphor just to make you think about what we see often is, have you ever been to one of those quick sacks at 7-Eleven or Circle K where you're looking for something and they have a dusty shelf in the back corner that they've put all their junk that they're trying to sell?
Got some old motor can versus some black licorice, and then there's some
broken plastic things.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
People are putting their kids' program on that shelf all the time.
Gotcha. Nice.
Where it looks like the stuff we don't care about in the back. We stuck it in the corner because we didn't really have space that we cared about.
Make your kids' program an end cap.
Right. Make it an end cap. Put out a sandwich board in front. Make sure it's not hiding somewhere where people have to look for it. And then once they find it, they go, well, how come it's stuck in the corner?
Right.
Or how
totally.
Only once a week. It's important for adults up to 6 times a week, 10 times a day, but it's only once. So they'll think about that stuff, especially those people who aren't already parents who work out in your gym. And to grow, we need people from the outside coming in. We can't just service the parents because then we're never going to be a big program. So those are the things we think about when we think about people really setting up a child-friendly environment.
Here's one that's just on this topic on a question about making it. They have a child-friendly front desk, they say, and they hold classes in a separate room, but walk in the room is not as friendly. How do we communicate to not let the kids walk around the gym area, climb the rowers, etc., and still keep it friendly for the kids? First impression seems good, but then the middle part of getting from that area to the other area sounds like it might not be as effective.
We had 2 areas, and that did happen. I really understand this. We had a special glass whiteboard when you walked in, and that was a message board, basically. If we're having a seminar, and say there was a seminar, something going on, but also we could use it. It's a nice, happy, colorful, using colored markers. Hey, kids are over there today. Please take your kid over here. So having signage right where you walk in a really nice way, not a don't be in here, but where you should go, where we want you to be in a very positive way. We say it, but say it in maybe a sandwich board, on a whiteboard in the front area.
And I think we're remembering we're talking with kids, and I got to say, our adult program, our adults got into stuff they weren't supposed to get into all the time. So well, let's not pretend it's just the kids doing it.
I wonder also, I don't know if you've seen this, but maybe like, I mean, I know chalk is not great on the floors, but maybe like writing a little arrows for the kids to follow directly.
So, what I was going to say is, as if the kids are in the entry level area and they're going to now move to the other area, remember they're kids, so we're going to tell them, hey, we're moving to the new area. This is what my expectations are of you moving through the adult area to the kids area. So set those expectations. That might help, and then maybe just understand that you're working with kids. Maybe you're going to get them off the rowers a little bit as they climb through. Because
the other thing is that we located a few items that our adults wanted to use, but the kids always wanted to use, which were a wall-mounted Bakar ladder and a pegboard. And the kids would come in, and while they're waiting for class to start, would challenge each other on these two things. So they didn't really want to go into the adult area as much because they had something that was very motivating to play on that didn't need coaching. We had a mat that was folded up against the wall. As soon as anybody used it, they pulled the mat out. So they had a mat if they were going to crash on there. And they did. So, and then eventually we had a ninja line.
Cool.
So something that intrigues them in the child-specific space that they want to go to, they may be less motivated to.
Gotcha. Think like a kid is basically what we're saying here, and put that through. For time's sake, I do want to move on to the next one. These are great questions. Oh shoot, I didn't even click that. I apologize here. But can we move to number 4? Is that okay with you?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So in an adult program, customer comes in, they become your client when they join. In a kids program, it's generally two different people, or the customer is the parent and the client is the child. And we have, coaches tend to develop great relationships with their clients, and in youth programs, forget about developing a great relationship with the customer, which is the parent. When the customer comes in, the parent comes in, the sales process, using your mission statement, talking about what your program is going to do for their child, your sales process is answering the problems the parent comes in with. The parent is coming in going, I want my child to get more activity. I want my child to be stronger and faster on the soccer field. We're answering their questions. We're answering their problems and understanding that, and then their kid joins, we develop that relationship with the client. We need to then systematize our communication with the parents, because the parent may not show up. So how do we systematize, sending the parents emails? This is what our program is doing this month. These are the things we're focusing on. Educating the parents. Another cadence of emails would be educating them about what the program is about. What is physical literacy? How are we going about doing this? And then a third piece, which is really important, is communicating to parents how successful their child is in the program. So sending bright spots to the parents through texts or emails or catching them in the parking lot is great. But we want to make sure that we're systematizing that communication, because parents may not show up, or may show up once every month. We want to make sure we're having these touch points that begin to develop a relationship with the parent, because we're already having a relationship with the child. We're creating that client relationship with the child.
And that fosters a long-term commitment to the program, understanding it that's foundational, progressive, and all those things. So it's really important.
And what we're trying to do with the communication and why the education is important is you want to take the idea that a parent brings their child to you for an activity and change that to the idea that your program is essential to the child's success for later in life.
Yeah.
And that change, when you can move it from an activity to something that is essential, that becomes a key for longevity and keeping kids in your program for long periods of time.
Yeah, we're not just tiring out the kids here. There's actually a reason behind this.
Right.
Or having a good time. Yeah.
Exactly.
I'll do a little punch here there's a lot of CRMs and customized communication here. Obviously you can use a lot of different programs. PushPress, if you are a client and you're not using our Grow platform, you can certainly systemize the cadence of communication for the initial setup of a program like this, and then a cadence every week or bi-weekly or whatever the cadence you want to communicate. And having that coach, I would assume, would be the best person to write that copy or the educated person, right? Because
we're actually talking to Grow about.
Yeah, we're in the midst of supporting the creation of some expanded youth-specific content there.
That would be awesome. Yeah, because it's a powerful platform, but it does take some time to write that copy and that communication cadence. So
yeah,
awesome.
Super helpful that PushStart or PushGrow has that.
PushPress Grow, yeah, exactly. Let's see here. Next slide, or are we anything?
Last slide.
Last slide. Here we go.
So the programming. All of us have been to gyms where somebody is frantically putting a program up on the wall or seemingly creating the workout before you on the whiteboard when you get there. That's not the way to create a sustainable program. The programming for kids needs to be progressive. It needs to move children from skill to skill and success to success. And it's got to provide for not only biological development, but also psychosocial change as well. And when you can take a child and move them from success to success to success across age groups and across developmental stages, what you end up with is long-term retention. So if you move this from just we're coming in here getting hot and sweaty to they're learning things and they're getting better at things, and then in the teen years they're getting stronger and stronger and stronger and faster, what we end up with is kids that were with you for a long time. We had close to 40 kids that were with us longer than a decade. So that's kids who started with us when they're 4 years old, and at 18 we had to go like, you got to go to college. It means you're going to have to leave the gym.
But they would call you.
But they would call us. That is a key to retention. So the two things we see for keys for retention is developing a relationship with the customer and providing programming that builds these kids along this pathway. We use in our methodology, the Brand X methodology, we use this idea of base, build, boost, where base is teaching a child how to control their own body in space and address external objects, so kinesthetic awareness and proprioception. Build is taking the rules they learned in base and applying it to learning good movement. And boost is performance.
Yeah.
Most people are hurrying to get to boost. Let's get the kids moving fast and let's get them doing something really complex. But they haven't set up the rules or they haven't set up the groundwork for them to maximize their potential and boost. And what happens is if we teach let's say a 9-year-old who doesn't know how to squat well yet, doesn't know how to brace, doesn't know how to hinge correctly, or hold a safe shoulder and overhead position, and we teach them to snatch. What happens to that child? Well, they're going to come to a position where, generally they won't get hurt, but what they'll do is they'll stall out, and they'll see progress stop. That's frustrating, and then you have to say to them, "We need to go back and learn all this other stuff." A 12-year-old doesn't understand that, and they go
failure moment. Yeah, it's not fun.
I don't want to go to the gym anymore.
So we want progressive.
So the way we set it up is this constant progression over time that leads to success, and then you get these kids into this boost phase, and they don't move poorly ever. They just get stronger and faster.
All of us wish we had it, right? When we got to learn it when we were much older. That sounds complex, definitely, that kind of programming approach and the foresight that it takes. You guys say you had your own program and obviously have cultivated some kind of progression. If it would be very difficult for a coach to get the basic education and the professionalism like we talked about, and I think slide 1 or 2, to then actually build a program that is like that. Do you see anybody else in the space? Where would you kind of start?
Well, I think
I think
we're looking at just a few months from now, Push Press.
There you go. Push
Press will have BrandX programming.
Cool. That might be.
So the program, and we do, within our certification, we do talk about how we use the idea of base, build, boost, and we give a tier system for each of the movement patterns.
Okay.
So tier 0, what do the kid need to know in the hinge pattern to move safely? That's tier 0. What do they need to do? Now that they know those things, they can do these things. Now they could do these things next.
Okay.
Beyond that, as we talked about earlier, there is the, like the American Academy of Pediatrics, and everybody recommends that your programming be specifically designed for kids. And oftentimes what we see is people will go, I'm just going to take like my adult program and drop it down on top of the teens, and I'll lower the weight or the reps. Well, funny, if you do it the way we were talking about doing it, what you'll end up with is teens, and they're 16, 17, 18 years old saying, I don't want to go to the adult class because they lift less than we do and they move slower than we do. And why would I want to do their programming? It'll just make me less fit. So programming is really important, pairing that with the education and with developing a good customer client or good customer relationship with the parents leads to long-term attention with these kids.
Gotcha. Excellent.
So this is just, what we just
review, yeah.
And everything is intertwined, really. I mean, when you start to look at it, what are your goals? If you want it to be important and foundational, you really need education. And then you have to make it obvious that you care about the program in every possible way to your client who walks in looking at if they're going to buy the program. And then wanting them to stay for retention, for your long-term business goals, you need to have a great relationship with that customer, even if they're dropping their kid off and not ever coming in. You have to find a way to communicate with them, be that text or email or in person if they do stop in. That has to happen for retention and long-term success of the business itself. Gotcha. And then that progressive programming supports everything, right? It has to be engaging to the kids. It has to be effective. They have to leave with a smile on their face and feeling great about it without plateaus and injury and things that might make them feel less motivated or rushing to boost so fast that they never get the necessary foundation that's going to lead to great outcomes.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, this is all, it's like anything, it's like, oh, that makes total sense. It all falls together. Whenever I do these calls with experts like yourself it's like, oh, that makes sense. So I appreciate that. Sometimes just laying it out is nice, and only 5 essential actions, very simple 5, right? No, it takes a lot of work, and that's why obviously the BrandX method is here to help as well. We know it's success of this kind of type of program is difficult. A lot of people go into it without understanding the full complexity of it. Same with nutrition, or even personal training can be more complex than we anticipate. So, but kids are a different audience for sure, which we can understand. Excellent. Well, we have a few minutes. This is where you guys can find some of the BrandX. We have obviously a survey after this where we can, if you are interested in booking a call, just say yes, and we'll get you in contact with the BrandX method, and you guys can go from there. Always important to get help from experts like them. You can obviously follow these guys on the socials and such. And as you heard, there are going to be some push press elements that we are now partnered with them that are going to be at the fingertips for you to utilize. And we'll see that kind of come out in announcements as we develop those. So go to thebrandxmethod.com to learn more. Let's answer you guys got a few minutes to answer some questions?
Sure.
Sure.
Is that okay? Awesome. There was a few going back to the initial get educated kind of elements, certifications that you would recommend. Do you guys provide certifications? Is there other places in the space that they go to?
We definitely do provide certifications.
Okay.
The first one we wrote was in 2008.
Hmm.
And now, so you can imagine how much has evolved in a youth fitness program in that amount of time.
We offer the professional youth coach certification. There's basically two courses that live under that. The first course goes over the why and science underpinning training a child in the biopsychosocial model. So biologically, what can a child express in certain age groups? Psychologically, what can they understand? Socially, what do they need? And then the second course is all about implementation. How do you take what you learned and apply it in your gym? And we talk about base build boost, and we talk about the hinge, the tier system that we have. I think we have showed this to Zach yesterday. I think we have over 120 videos on teaching movement to kids in the tier system. We have another 100 videos on physical literacy, another 100 videos that are just demonstrations videos of, like, what is a Zotman curl, that kind of thing.
Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah.
And then of course we have I think 35 or 40 games now in that.
Yeah, and then research that supports everything we do. So the peer-reviewed documents, the recommendations from American Academy of Pediatrics, and then it's always growing. We want it to be a resource. So news stories, new research, things that are coming out that are youth relevant, we pop that in there.
And it can be used as CEUs for NASM as well as
Australian Strength and Conditioning Association.
Yeah. Okay. Some extra. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Obviously, you guys you have your own developed stuff, and the AAP would be probably a resource for people to check out too to understand the history.
For sure. For sure.
Okay. Well, good. Awesome. Thanks, Cole, for that question. Let's see here. I think there was one that I think this one's kind of providing bright spots. In an email and kind of talking about the success and stuff. Obviously, protecting kids' privacy, and the communication with the kids. You do need to. I understand this. We can't market to kids the same way we market to adults, and obviously showing those bright spots. Kids' privacy is it pretty much makes sense, like straightforward. Just maybe don't share that kind of information. What do you guys kind of recommend normally with that?
So the bright spots were to the parent.
Yeah. So there's kind of two separate market ideas. So the first one was, marketing. Like most gyms that have successful youth programs have a youth specific like Instagram, and so there is a video waiver and a picture waiver that the parents sign to have their kids work out at the gym. And there's certain things we talk about in our certification, things like don't use the kids' names, don't tell them where they are, those kind of things to protect the kids. When we're talking about bright spots, those are generally things that we want to be communicating in two ways. One is directly to the parent. So we say texting is great now. So get on a schedule of every 6 weeks or so. Hey, little Johnny just did his first pull-up. Want to let you know that. Awesome. Okay. A couple things that can happen there. One is that, first of all, everybody gets their text and reads them. They don't necessarily respond, but the parent knows that you, the coach, took the time to do it, which is awesome. That's a great relationship building thing. Secondly, they can respond with, so thank you, thank you. And you have some kind of discussion back and forth. And the third thing that can happen, which is awesome, is they can say, glad you got the pull up, but he feels like he's lagging in his, weight on squats. And you have a chance now to go like, kid's concerned about squatting. I need to fix that. So the next time you call, right, you can say, well, let you know, Johnny's doing this with his squatting and he's making progress. I want to let you know that. So you can find ways to build a relationship, let them know that you care about their kids, as well as get information back that can help you with retention with the child.
I love that. Yeah. So the frame would be less about actually shouting from the rooftop the success of the kid to the populace in the program or even in your members, but more just focused on the one-on-one connection between the kid, you, the coach, and the parents. So I think that was the miscommunication. Like, do we share private, the privacy of sharing photos? Yeah, maybe don't focus on that. Focus on the connection with the parent and building that relationship. I love that.
And then things that go up on the internet, you would have a waiver where the parents and the child are comfortable with that's going to be up there somewhere. But using as little identification information as you can. Although obviously, as time goes on, there are ways to find anybody. But
a decade ago, we used to go, "Don't do it," and now we just have to understand that it's going to happen. So let's do it in a way that is safe for children.
Right. And if one quick thing there, if you communicate directly with a child, which we don't recommend by email or text, if you feel you must somehow always include another coach and their parent on that communication.
Okay. I love that. I didn't think of that. It's a good idea. I think we're at time. I really want to, obviously, I know everyone watching has had a few people leave, have probably classes to coach and things to do, go, start their youth program, no big deal. But we will be following up. Please fill out that survey after this webinar, because that'll let us know if our success team can, help you navigate maybe some of this stuff, talk about grow like we talked about. And then of course, I want to get anyone interested in the Brand X method and getting more information from Jeff and Mikki about this. They can get a call booked. So we'll be following up with anybody that fills out that survey. And then of course, the recording will be going up as soon as I have time to edit it. But I try to do as fast as I can. So if anybody, you're like, oh my gosh, if you're a coach and your owner wasn't on and you're like, I want to do this, but I want to share first, get approval, this recording would be a good one, I think, to show the real professionalism that you can create and drive a program like a youth program in the gym. So empower the coaches to the owners. Sometimes the decision maker can't make it. So make sure you share this recording. Jeff, Mikki, this has been great. Well, I look forward to the continued partnership and some of the stuff we're releasing and working on. Everybody have a great, what is it, Thursday? Oh my gosh, it's Thursday. Have a great day. If you got Veterans Day off tomorrow, have a good day off, and hope you guys have a great workout honoring our veterans. So thank you so much, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right.